What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome back to the TheSlamDuncan YouTube channel. Today, I have my really good friend here, David Bernauer. He is a big, humongous Orlando Magic fan, but he is also suffering a little bit today. But I brought him on here because he asked me to, but I also wanted to see, have him kind of answer some questions about Nikola Vucevic, but also just have his thoughts on the Orlando Magic side of doing the big, humongous Nikola Vucevic trade. But if to get you all caught up here, the Bulls made a humongous deal today at the NBA trade deadline, which I thought would never happen because I thought it was just going to be a silent trade deadline. But Nikola Vucevic, All-Star center, is going to the Chicago Bulls for Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr., two first round picks, 2021 and 2023. Both are top four protected, which means that both will probably go to the Orlando Magic. But Al-Farouq Aminu is also going to Chicago Bulls in this deal. But this is obviously the big blockbuster trade that a bunch of Bulls fans have been calling for, and Carneshow has delivered. Obviously, as a Bulls fan and a bunch of Bulls fans everywhere, they're very excited about this deal. We now have two All-Stars on the team, and it's been such a long time since we've ever said that. It's crazy just to think about, right? But obviously, the Orlando Magic have hit the rebuild button. So David here has now gonna be able to just express what Orlando Magic fans are thinking, but also give his point of view of how the rebuild's gonna go down in Orlando. So David, hello to you.
Hello,
It
can the Magic stay healthy? That's the big question.
that is the big question, and they unfortunately got two injury-prone players in return. But in your thoughts, what do you grade the Nikola Vucevic trade for the Orlando Magic?
Uh, for the Magic, I mean, this is very much dependent on how those picks go. But right now, I'd give it a pretty solid B. I mean, Wendell Carter isn't, you know, your big household name type of prospect, but as we said before getting onto this recording here, he can potentially be an excellent center, like an Al Horford type. So if he's able to develop into that kind of guy under Steve Clifford, like Steve Clifford did help with Dwight Howard as an assistant with the Magic, um, help with Al Jefferson in Charlotte. I wouldn't say made Cody Zeller a great player, but I mean, he's certainly a good player in Charlotte as he helped him there. And then taking Vucevic from being like a 15 point per game scorer to what we're seeing now, averaging almost 25 and like 12 and having a great 3 point shot. So Steve Clifford does know what he's doing with these centers. And so having Wendell being under Cliff, I think that's going to be great for him. Otto Porter, I mean, he's really just in there, I think, to fill cap space to make the trade work, honestly. And he'll be fine for the next 2 months or so, but I don't envision the Magic re-signing him.
Yeah, there's
And
no reason
then
for the Magic to bring him back.
yeah, there's no reason to keep him around. And then we got those two first round picks for 2021 and 2023. So, I mean, this season, if for whatever reason the Bulls don't have some sort of big record splurge following the Vooch trade, now that could be a pretty good lottery pick for us and what's supposed to be a pretty top heavy draft. And then 2023, I assume will still probably be at least a little bit bad by then. So we should have a lottery pick, and if everything pans out for the Bulls, a mid to late first rounder.
Right.
So, I mean, although it really depends on who we take with those picks. Now, this trade could become, like an F if
It
those
definitely
trades
could.
don't pan out, but it could also easily become an A plus. Or, you
Yeah.
sell high on Vooch, you're not ever going to get him for more value than this, I don't think.
Yeah.
So,
I honestly think that a lot of um, Magic fans, they were like, "Wow, we could have gotten more." But it's if you think about it right now, why would any other team be like, "Hey, let's give up two first round picks and another young prospect, or even more stuff like what the Bulls just gave up for a guy like Nikola Vucevic right now?" It'd be kind of hard to find a team that has these sorts of assets because I've been saying it for a while for the Bulls that the Bulls have a lot of flexible assets right now, and they can go ahead and spend it on a guy like Vucevic or just even their cap space. They can go spend that as well. So I think this works out for kind of both teams here, saying that hey, Bulls have assets that they need to spend here, and if you're the Magic, you're thinking we need to get something in return here as we hit the rebuild button. So
yeah.
I think you got a pretty good overall haul because those picks are gonna go to you.
Yeah. I mean, I was fully expecting Evan Fournier and Aaron Gordon to be gone today, but I mean, I was really not expecting Vooch to be gone. I'm really still having a lot of trouble wrapping my head around this because
Yeah,
Vooch has been on the team since the Dwight Howard trade in August 2012, and I was 11 years old, almost 12, and so now I'm 20 and a half-ish. So I mean, Vooch has been a part of my life for almost half my life. Like it feels wrong to think of Vooch in another jersey than an Orlando Magic jersey. I mean, at the time of this trade, he ranks third in Magic franchise history in points, second in total rebounds, and eighth in assists. And he also holds the single game record for rebounds with 29 and I think it was New Year's Eve 2012 against the Heat. So, I mean, he's had a tremendous impact in his what, like 8, 9 years here with Orlando.
I believe it's
Like,
yeah 8.
I don't know. I can't ever keep track of how long people have been in the NBA. Now, you think I know with Vooch because he's been one of my favorite players aside from like 2017 when he didn't look like he wanted to be here and everything sucked.
Right.
But uh it's just I don't know. It's hard to put into words, man. I would be wearing my Vucevic shirt right now if it wasn't dirty.
Gotcha. I don't know, like I'm even just as a Bulls fan, I'm shocked that this even happened. But this is what the new front office should be doing, and they did just that.
I
And
know. I'm so
it's
happy for you guys that
yeah,
he at least went to a team I care a little bit about.
right.
Like if he went
And
to like some random team, like I don't know, not that Minnesota's random, but
you'd
like
be going
if he
livid
went,
if he went to the Hawks.
yeah, like if he went say like he went to like Cleveland or something
Oh gosh.
weird, especially where it wouldn't make any sense because they have Jarrett Allen. Like I would just be absolutely ridiculous, and I would hate the Magic front office for a long time. But
Yeah.
at least he goes somewhere where I know he's going to be put into a position to succeed.
hmm Now, one of the things for the Magic is getting the Otto Porter contract, which is $29 million or around that this year. Um, his This is the last year of his deal, so
Mhm.
this helps open up the Orlando Magic cap space as they are a team that are working over the cap currently, and they were projected to work over the cap again next year if no moves were made. But now, because you got Vucevic is gone, his 24 million next year is gone, and then now Al-Farouq Aminu's $10 million is also gone, which the Bulls took on in this deal. Your cap space now looks a lot better than it did, what, 8 hours ago. So
Yes,
it
days gone by
it is
fast.
yeah, it's looking a lot better right now for a rebuilding team. That's very important to have that cap space to help, maybe bring in vets to help the rebuild, or just to make sure that you have cap space moving forward, and that you don't just lock yourselves up in a bad situation. So, what do you
Yeah.
guys think about having more cap space now?
Well, I mean, I don't think it really matters too much right now because, I mean, we're not going to go out and be signing a guy like Kawhi because
Right.
we're rebuilding.
Not a lot of
But
teams are.
I think it does fit well that now that we did sign Isaac and Markelle to those extensions for a good amount of money, that we're still going to have cap space despite doing that now. I think that does bode well for the future, whether that be having the room to extend Cole Anthony and Chuma Okeke if they work out, whoever we draft in these next few years if they work out. And then possibly not that Orlando hasn't recently been a big free agent destination, but there was a point in time where we almost had a big three of Grant Hill, T Mac, and Tim Duncan. So it's not like Orlando is necessarily like a terrible place. Plus, no state income tax. People might want to play here if we have a team that looks like it can contend. And so, if we have that cap space and the rebuild comes a little faster than expected, then that'll be great, and we'll have cap room to go out and sign a guy. And but in addition to that cap stuff you're talking about, we also got Gary Harris as part of the Aaron Gordon deal we did with Denver,
Okay.
and he only has one more season left after this. He'll be getting paid 20 million, which is a lot for Gary Harris. But again, it's only for one season. It's not like
hmm
we're going to use that 20 million on somebody else. and hopefully he can either, up his trade value and we can flip him for something next season, or he'll prove that he should be a guy worth keeping around and we
I
can
think one of the
sign him to a deal for less than 20 million, but still have him around as a solid guy.
I think one of the biggest things though for the Magic, like just having that cap space, it's very necessary for you to guys start looking like, okay, what's a bad contract from a team right now that you can absorb with that cap space, but then you can get a first round pick out of it. Like
Hmm.
that's very important right now for you guys. So getting that cap space now, so then come the off season where teams have bad contracts or looking to unload, you can potentially get a first round pick out of that, and that's very valuable in my opinion.
Yeah, it will be like, I don't know, be like, Boston wouldn't trade a first round pick because they won't trade anything
Yeah, that
for
Boston's very
anybody.
stingy right now.
But I don't know. Does LA have a first round pick left after the Anthony Davis trade?
Ugh, I don't know about that.
I don't
I don't
know.
think they do.
Just insert contender with a bad contract on here. You
Right.
rang?
Now the big thing is this though. Like the 2022 free agency is a big one, right? As of right now. Now there are a bunch of all stars and player options, but I do think that cap space comes into play for you guys because if there's a bad contract, you know, I'm looking like at an Al Horford contract that is
Yeah.
going into for a pretty long time. You can just absorb that and then help a team that's looking to play in free agency in 2022. You can absorb that contract now, but get a first out of it. So
We'll,
I
we'll,
think
we'll
that's what.
take Al Horford, Dementor, Wendell.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Mentor,
Um,
Wendell, and Mo.
just let me know when you gotta go. By the way.
Okay.
Um, Now I want to get to this pretty quickly, but this is the time for you as a Magic fan that has watched Vucevic for so long to kind of talk about Vucevic and his game. Um, Big thing right now for the Bulls is that they're ranked 28th currently in scoring from the screener in a pick and roll situation.
Well, he'll
So
help tremendously there.
yeah, I think this is obviously one of the biggest things about Vucevic in making this deal is that Bulls have been lacking in the pick and roll department. Well, here you go. You got Vucevic now. Um, you've seen his post game for a long time now. How do you think he's gonna effectively work in the post in a Chicago Bulls uniform?
Well, I mean, I won't claim to have watched a ton of Bulls games this year, but I mean, Vooch is an absolute monster in the post. I think you could easily make an argument for him being the best offensive post player in the NBA outside of a Jokic or Embiid, as well as just best center outside of Jokic and Embiid, really.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so I mean, he has the go-to post move every time he's hit a hook shot the last year and a half out of the post. I've said get post hooked at my TV,
Yeah.
and whoever he scores on, I mean, he can hit the hook shot, he can fade away out of the post. Excellent passer out of the post. If he's in the post and you got somebody cutting to the rim, him and Zach Levine all day. Just have Zach cut from the 3 point line down the paint. Vooch will find him. And then as far as that pick and roll goes, he can roll to the hoop. He can pop out for an easy mid range or 3 pointer. Um, Even on like it's kind of like a pseudo screen, but not really. Like if you're on the fast break and you have your point guard, whoever, kind of going down the middle towards the lane, Vooch will always be trailing back there, and you just pass the ball back out to him. He will knock down that 3 pointer at the top of the key all day. According to Kirk Goldsberry, I think his name is, Vooch actually has the most points out of anybody in the NBA from the top of the 3 point arc.
Oh wow.
So if you guys feed him there, he will hit it. He's shooting, I think, 40% at least from three
He's
this
shooting
year.
40% from three this
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is incredible considering like 2 or 3 years ago, he wasn't even shooting threes.
Right.
I always had the confidence he could do it because he was an excellent mid range shooter. But
You and I had those talks, man, that were just like, why not allow him to extend it out there? And
I mean, I remember watching the 2014 season opener against New Orleans and watching the post game stuff. I know they had some sort of thing with Vooch afterwards where he was watching a game film of himself, and he took like a 3 pointer at the end of the shot clock and made it. And he was talking about himself. He's like, I don't know why coach doesn't let him shoot those. He can make them. I was like, he probably could because he hits those mid range all the time from like 20 feet. What's wrong with going back an extra three?
right.
And finally under Clifford, let him shoot the three-pointer,
Yeah,
and now he's one of the best centers in the NBA.
it has really brought his game to the next level, though. That's the
Yeah,
best part about it. Big thing is that this is a career year for Vucevic.
yeah,
A lot of Bulls fans are kind of like, oh God, he's already 30. This is such a big issue, which I don't really understand that whole argument because I mean we had Pau Gasol when he was 36 and he was still an All Star then.
yeah,
Um, Chris Paul is an All Star and he's 36 on the Phoenix Suns. So if anything, I'm like we have a veteran now. This is big for the
yeah.
Bulls in my opinion because it's like you need
Vooch
a
is
veteran
in his prime
somewhere.
right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
Vooch is in his prime, and I also say that the age thing shouldn't really be too much of an issue because Vooch doesn't rely on his athleticism
exactly.
to do really anything, basically, not even rebounding. He'll just stick his butt into you and he'll box you out
Yeah,
and grab a rebound the old-fashioned way. So, I mean, I'm not saying Vooch is Dirk Nowitzki, but Eric Spoelstra recently said like it was watching the second coming of Dirk Nowitzki about a week and a half ago when the Magic played the Heat. I could very easily see Vooch playing into like an age 40 season just because he doesn't play in a way that taxes his body a whole ton.
I mean, I think Bulls fans should be thinking like, oh, he's having a career year now and at age 30. That shouldn't be as big of a problem then with his age because
Yeah.
if he's having a best year now, like, and it's an All Star level year, that his age shouldn't be too much of an issue. That shouldn't be that much of a worry. So,
Yeah, like
um,
Vooch should still be in his prime for the next like 4 to 5 years, which if you guys are just starting to make the playoffs now, like that's pretty much your championship window you're going for is probably the next two
exactly.
or three seasons.
Yeah, Levine's now 26, so I think it fits right with his timeline. To be honest,
Yeah,
um,
they're only 2 or 3 drafts apart. Yeah,
right?
Vooch was 2011 and Levine is 14.
Yeah.
So
So
they're already close in age, even though Vooch seems a lot older than Levine
he
right
does,
now.
but remember, Vooch made his first All Star game 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, two years ago, 2019.
So it's like he's now at that level now. So we
Hmm.
have to understand that his prime was started 2 years ago, technically, I guess.
Yeah.
But um, I think the last thing I want to ask you about, which we talked about this before this video started, was um, Bulls rim protection has been a problem all year. But I honestly think just lack of size has just been the biggest issue for the Bulls. Um, and we all know Vucevic is going to fix the rebounding issue that this Bulls team has had all year,
He's
and
something like
that's
what? Is he fifth in
yeah,
the NBA in rebounding?
I think he's fifth. Yeah,
Definitely
um,
top 10, if not top five.
right. And he's one of the few players right now. I think uh, averaging 24 and 11 right now in the NBA. So it's like you know that Vucevic is going to come in and help the rebounding issue, but obviously I think the paint protection has been an issue as well for the Bulls. So what do you think about Vucevic's defense, and is he going to help the Bulls in any way? Which I think the Bulls, no matter who they get, is just going to help them. But how is he going to do on the defensive end?
I mean, Vooch isn't going to be a fix-all. I mean, he's no Bam Adebayo or Rudy Gobert, but he is a passable defender at the hoop. And again, I'm coming back to Steve Clifford and him making Vooch into the player he was today. Before Steve Clifford came, I mean, Vooch was just like a cardboard cutout in the paint. People would just go at him all the time. And then now, when I was reading some Josh Robbins stuff from The Athletic a few months ago, he went through every player on the Magic roster and just wrote articles about like what other team scouts are saying about our players. And what a lot of the scouts were saying was what I just said, like Vooch is like passable now, and like players don't, they're not necessarily scared of driving into the paint against him, but it's not something they really are actively seeking out either. So, I mean, from what you're telling me, it sounds like the Bulls just have a black hole in the paint. Like Vooch is just,
Uh, yeah,
yeah, like even if Vooch wasn't good, he's still just a big body. You see a big guy in the paint, you're not going to want to take a hard hit against him. I mean, he's gonna help a little bit at least.
you have to understand when we're playing Thaddeus Young mostly at center, like any sort of big man that comes in
Yeah.
is probably going to help this Bulls team.
Yeah. Like no knock on Thaddeus Young, but I'm gonna take a solid bet here and say Vooch will do a much better job playing the center than Thaddeus Young.
Right. Yeah. Um, I honestly think with the Bulls, if you just added some sort of 7 footer, because we don't have one unless your name
Luke
is Luke
Cornett.
Cornett, right? They're gonna come in and just help so much for this Bulls team. Now, you and I talked about this earlier as well, but the drop coverage is now definitely going to come into play here for the Bulls as Billy Donovan has introduced the drop coverage this year as the Bulls blitzed a ton last year with under Boylan, but this year the drop coverage has come into play and it's you know I would say it has shown some weaknesses in the Bulls defense a lot just because we don't have that best perimeter defenders and then we're forcing it not necessarily into a rim protector. So whether it was Wendell Carter Jr., Larry Markkanen, or Thaddeus Young, they're not big guys. They're not Rudy Gobert. They're not rim protectors, right? But I think with Vucevic, this drop coverage becomes even more prominent because switching is not going to be an ideal thing with Vucevic, right?
No, I mean he's your classic, big guy out on the perimeter. Like he's not gonna be able to stay in front of almost anybody. Like I'm just thinking of all the different times he's gotten switched out on the perimeter against like a Jamal Murray or like Devin Booker or Kyle Lowry, James Harden, whoever, and he's gonna get cooked almost every single time. Like it's really if they don't score, it's probably because the person on offense messed up and not because Vooch did something good.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
like he's just your classic big guy who's uncomfortable being way outside of the paint.
Right. I honestly I'm not the biggest fan of switching either. Even with this Bulls team that is very similar in size, I was like, um, I don't like the idea of switching because we've seen that even when Thaddeus Young has to go out there, it's not gonna end in a good result for the Bulls on defense. So it's now very important for the Bulls to start making sure that that drop coverage is effectively being used. If you don't if you don't fight over that screen on that drop coverage, it's gonna end up in just a 2-on-1 situation. So it's up to the guards to really help Vucevic on defense, in my opinion, because he is obviously not Rudy Gobert. So um, I think this drop coverage, I'm happy that Billy Donovan has implemented it. So now a guy like Vucevic can come in and feel comfortable and not have to act like he has to go out onto the perimeter so much.
Yeah, I just don't know who his new Euro bro is going to be because I mean he's no longer with Fournier and Fournier is now in Boston.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
wondering
true.
who is Evan Fournier going to pass the ball to? That's a big question for me
That is a big question.
because like 90% of the time Evan's passing to to Vooch.
Yeah, man, Connor Shovis, he likes the European guys. I mean, we drafted Marcos Simonovic at 44 overall in this past draft, and he's another center. And he's actually, so far, what I've seen, he's played pretty well overseas. So who knows? Maybe he
Y'all,
can play power forward, and then they'll play together, Vucevic and him.
yeah. Well, is there anything else you have for me?
Honestly, not really. I don't really want to talk about the other deals for the Magic right now because this is more of a Bulls thing. But
Yeah,
Magic did make some other deals that have really signaled that it's a rebuilding stage, right? So, your thoughts on
yeah.
just Magic moving forward in a rebuild?
Um, well, it's a bittersweet end to an era. I mean, I grew up watching this Magic team. And even though my first memories of being a Magic fan are with Dwight Howard and that '09 finals team, and then up until he got traded and forced his way out in 2012, I mean, most of my memories are with this team. So, I mean, this we didn't win a whole lot, but I think even though winning does bring people together, I think mutual suffering has also brought me closer to this team. Kind of like Cubs fans before winning the World Series. Like that was their identity. We are the losers. And for
Yeah.
me, it's like we're the Magic. We've been the losers, and It was great watching 2019 game one, 2020 game one, but I mean, looking at this roster, at best, if fully healthy, we are only getting to the second round. And Waltham noticed, like this core isn't going to cut it. Might as well sell high on these guys while we can. And
Yep.
so the future is looking potentially bright. So much of it depends on how RJ Hampton pans out from the Aaron Gordon trade and the picks we got from Chicago, Boston, and Denver. So, and then obviously, because now we're going to suck how much our own picks work out as well.
Yeah. Draft
So,
lottery can be very unforgiving, as
yeah.
we've seen.
So Magic fans have been begging the front office to give the young guys a chance. Here you go. Here's their chance to go prove themselves.
Yeah. And there it is, man. Um, Anything else you want to mention before we end?
Rest in peace to the Euro Bros. Aaron Gordon got robbed
Eric Gordon. Oh
twice.
God. And there's that argument for another day. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Go follow David. You can follow him on Twitter at David of Bernauer. And then he has a very big Instagram NBA account, the underscore NBA news. Go follow him there. He posts a lot of updates and news about the NBA, and he does a really good job of breaking things down. So make sure you go follow David on Twitter at David of Bernauer, and then Instagram, the underscore NBA news. Thank you guys so much for watching, and again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.